last week.
Was it last week already?
Yeah. Starting to green up, so it's gonna help.
Yeah.
This rain that we're getting right now, though.
Yeah.
Last week.
Was it last week already?
Yeah. Starting to green up, so.
Oh, rolling.
I'm glad we could get that.
I was just testing it before. Open, if the doors are locked, it is not an open meeting.
Right? Where's the rest of the packet?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we're back here. Rodriguez started a military company. Yeah.
Are we muted or not?
I'm a busy person. And I'm still driving with kids.
Want to see Tony?
I did before.
No. I think we got State Patrol and Tony. We're waiting for. Carlin won't be here, Sheriff won't be here. Get some salt on them road case.
It was actually a little slippery. The way the rain was pouring down.
Andy's here.
I don't know. Your choice. Your choice. Hi.
I read the email from Andy, so highly recommend it.
To wear it.
Oh, that's just. I kind of look at their mouths. I think I can 50% I can lips. I'll be right. Checking here. It was not that big of a.
Oh,
Really impacts. Like, about every 3-4 months, you should go in and get them cleaned up.
Well, these are
Right.
$4,000 for.
That's a big thing people don't realize that when you start to lose hearing, first thing you like to look at your ears.
The tip of the day. Where you go?
Yeah, better than the $4 grand for.
I'm not gonna tell my wife that, she'll make it.
What?
Huh?
What?
I had to work for one time that I had to pick up on the highway because he couldn't drive his vehicle anymore. He's passed away now, but we're like, what's going on? He's lost his sense of balance. Took him to Theta Care. He says he did dizzy spells with his ears and he was fine.
Big difference.
Makes sense.
Welcome, Tony.
Hello.
Is the cat up there yet? No.
No, she's upstairs sleeping in her condo. I got the dog down here though.
I have 10 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order, 10 o'clock, 1. Roll call's been done. Open meeting statement. This meeting and all other meetings of this commission are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statute. so that citizens may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. 4, approve amend minutes from the previous meeting. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the previous quarter meeting? That was Jay.
I'll make the motion for approval.
Had a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll take a vote on the approval of the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approval of the agenda. Kim sent out the agenda. Is there any issues with the agenda?
So move.
Motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second? Rich, second it. Discussion? If not, I'll take a, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Public input, whether here, which I don't see anybody, or on Zoom. This is your chance. No, I have no public input. And number 7, reports. I am going to go down my list. We may not go in any type of order besides what I have on the list and probably what's on the agenda. So what I have up on the screen right now, for those who may not see it, is the TOPS map, or the community map that the state puts together of the crashes for Q1 2021 in Waupaca County, including all municipalities. On this, I will get to, I'm just switching to the fatalities. Actually, I'm getting to all the injuries. We can discuss those after I read the numbers of the crashes in Waupaca County. January, there were 38 property damage crashes, 11 injury crashes. In those 11 injury crashes, 15 people were hurt, 7 serious, 4 of the minor variety, 4 possible injury, 1 fatality. Total crashes in January were 49. February, 65 property damage only crashes, 11 injury crashes. In those 11 injury crashes were 12 people hurt, 4 serious, 5 minor, 3 possible. There were 2 fatality injuries or fatals in 1 crash. Total crashes for February, 76. March, 36 property damage crashes, 12 injury crashes, 17 people hurt, 3 injured, 3 serious, 12 minor, 2 possible, 0 fatalities in March. Total crashes of 48. So total first quarter numbers, 139 property damage crashes, 34 injury crashes, 44 people hurt, 14 serious, 21 minor, 9 possible injury, and 3 deaths in the first quarter of 2021. Rick, numbers pretty close to what you had?
Yep.
Okay. I hope, because I got from the state website.
It depends what day you're talking about.
Well, fair enough.
You and I didn't do it on the same day.
We could be all. So the fatalities, we can discuss those a little bit. Like I said, there was 3 deaths of 2 crashes. The first one in January. Was on January 21st. 1 car crash on Highway E, south of Waupaca near the county line. Vehicle was southbound, 1 occupant in it. Drove off the road, struck a tree. She was pronounced, I believe, dead at the scene, right, Kathy? The medical examiner
He was pronounced at the hospital.
was transferred, okay. Like I said, there was just 1 occupant, the driver in the vehicle. So we don't know. Waupaca residents, with Sheriff County though. Cause of crash, no alcohol or drugs on board. don't think the road contributed to the crash. Was there a medical issue prior that caused it? It could be. So the second crash that resulted in 2 fatals was on February 6th, around 3:15 PM on Highway 45, north of New London, where a vehicle crossed the center line, struck another vehicle, and the 2 people in that vehicle died. I believe that was on a very poor weather day, very cold, and that was on that stretch that was very bad. So no, there was no indication of alcohol or drugs in that crash, if I recall correctly. So, any questions about any of the numbers I stated, any of the crashes? Kathy, feel free to chime in if you want to talk anything about the fatals, or you can wait to call on you also. Questions for me, Mike? All right. Then I am going to move on to County Highway Casey.
Yep. All right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
What I want to talk about a little bit is about that 2-person fatal.
This or
Let's bring up that.
what you gave me?
Yeah, what I gave you, because I'll utilize that too.
Yeah.
So after I had heard about the incident, which occurred on Saturday, February 6th. It had snowed that morning. Our crews were out salting the roads. The road was wet, and the wind picked up that afternoon, and it started taking the previous night's snow. And from what I'm hearing was occurring is it was blowing it across a bunch of fields. And so that prompts me to ask, well, what could have we done hindsight to prevent snow coming across the road? And so I just wanted to share this map that I have created maybe 3 years ago or so. And the map is a representation of all of our snowplow routes in Waupaca County. So in the upper right-hand corner, and this is only for our department, and I do not have intentions of sharing this with the public, but it's for our use only. In the upper right-hand corner, I can basically turn layers on and shut layers off. So as I start shutting off our county highway plow routes and our state plow routes and our town plow routes, you can still see in the background all of these little bitty areas that I had my surveyor go out and collect all the locations where we put up snow fence. We did this a couple years ago. The reason we have this is from change of foreman or change of management. Everyone doesn't remember where the snow fence was. And so particularly in this location, I believe I'm at the right spot. You can see that we have snow fence, which is outlined in this purple. And if I click on it, I can say, well, right there, we install 538 lineal feet of snow fence. That allows the foreman to bring it up and say, we need, to his crews, we need 10, 11 rolls of snow fence at that location. It's easier to manage it. Well, what I heard through the grapevine is everyone's wondering why wasn't there snow fence at this location south where the accident occurred. And so obviously it wasn't there at the time of the accident. We only can now start installing it in the year's future. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that snow fence and install it further down into this curve so that when the drifting comes across on wet roads and starts to stick, it isn't occurring on a curve. And so this map is only showing the snow fence around our entire county, on our county roads, on our state roads. It does to be a tool. But I asked our office manager, Chris, how many lineal feet of snow fence we installed on the state system last year, which we charge our county snow fence to the state. And we installed 25,400 lineal feet of snow fence on the state system last year, which equals about, 524 rolls of snow fence we put out on the state system. And so for us to cover everything is impossible, but I thought this was important just to kind of show this group as to how much we invest in snow fence installation and tear down and working with landowners and
That's over
I can get- it's over 5 miles just on the state system, and I didn't tally up what our county system. So I think it was an important discussion for this group. So that's kind of what I wanted to use this map for. And everyone wants snow fence everywhere, but the state doesn't want to pay for it everywhere, and we don't have the time to put it up on our entire system. So other things I have from my standpoint is the week of April 26th coming up is the Work Zone Safety Week. That's being acknowledged amongst all the counties, and there'll be a proclamation, I believe, that goes to county board to recognize that. It got passed at the highway committee, which usually annually. Our construction projects are coming up this year. We've got quite a few of them. I think I might have touched base on this at one of the meetings, but the only one that we're going to have a detour is going to be that section of County Chunk Highway O, just south of the 000 Supper Club. We're reconstructing that section from 22 north, and so there will be a detour for that project. Other than that, I don't have any other projects that are going to have detours or change of traffic. Most all of them are going to be done under live traffic. So
I'm sorry, Lisa, can you repeat? You said
the County Highway O construction project is the only county project that we're going to detour traffic off of. The other ones we're going to do them under live traffic, which is more our grind and reshape and caves. Residents will always have access to get to their houses. The mail carriers are all notified to use the mailbox banks usually at the end of the project so that the mail carrier doesn't have to go through the sand or whatever we're digging up on Highway O. That project's gonna start probably early June. In the meantime, our crews are kicking off this year with some ditching on County Highway Q, which is a pavement replacement project from Bartle Road to Highway 49. And then we're also gonna be repaving County Highway B west of Ogdensburg from like the railroad tracks to State Highway 49. That's another project we're getting ready to kick off this year. So we got one big pipe replacement on that one. Other than that, everything will be open for traffic and emergency vehicles and so forth. Our foremen are pretty good at calling into the dispatch, the non-911 call, and then giving everyone a heads up, and dispatch is good at giving alerts to everyone that that section of road will be closed for a certain period of time. The way I know that the message got sent out, because I tell my foreman to do it, and then all of a sudden you hear the pagers beep, beep, beep on my crews that are first responders and so forth, get that message. So that's kind of my check that the information went out. So that's all I got, Todd.
Thanks, Casey.
Can you just touch on the weights on the roads and off the roads?
Yeah.
What were them dates?
Spring weight limits?
Yes.
So this past week, Monday, we pulled the spring weight limits. That was in conjunction with surrounding counties. Shawano pulled them. They had been on pretty typical from years past for 4 weeks or a month. That's typically what we're seeing as a month. I didn't get a whole lot of pressure this year from business owners or manure haulers, and I think that was a reflection of not a lot of rain overloading their manure pits where they needed to start hauling because their pits were going to overflow. So it was pretty quiet this year for spring weight limits on our behalf. I think Marathon County is maybe holding off for another week or two, but they're more north and a little colder, longer in the spring. Yeah, Officer Dan Lewinsky is now in charge of administering that for us, and he said it was very slow on what he had for citations or picking up people. So the word is out there that when we're posting our spring weight limits, enforcement is coming along with it. So we appreciate that from the sheriff's department. Good.
Thanks, Casey. Any questions for Casey? Okay, then we'll move on to Becky Rickle.
Hello, the I just have a comment for Casey and probably the officers in the room. People always blame the roads and everything for their accidents. People need to slow down, give themselves more space and all this type of stuff instead of blaming everyone else for their accidents. You guys are doing great on the roads. I see lots more policemen out patrolling and pulling over speeders, which makes me happy. Keep up the good work. And the roads, you only can do what you can do, right? Slow down, people, and you won't have an accident. Give yourself extra space. Also, the road test waiver is still in effect. It's going good with it. It'll be a year in May that the road test waiver is. And 90% of my kids passed the road test the first time. And without the road test waiver, I've been keeping track, and about 10% of my kids are not being allowed to get their license the first or second time or not at all. So I'm just in my brain, it's kind of going the same as when they had the road test. So I'm happy with it. I think it's good. I think accidents are down for teenagers statewide when I looked, but that could be COVID, not going to school, less driving, you know. But otherwise, nothing else new to report.
Questions for Becky? Waupaca County for the order. Crashes. It looks like we've had 23 total crashes in Waupaca County that have been flagged for teen drivers
This year?
for this quarter, correct?
Okay.
And there's a large amount centered around Clintonville.
Yeah, when I looked for like a whole year, it seemed to be down, but I haven't looked lately.
And it could be.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Medical examiner Kathy White.
I have really nothing to add to what you said earlier about the fatals, and neither accident had any drugs or alcohol.
Kathy, do you recall about seatbelt use?
The male driver on the crash on 45 did not have a seatbelt on. And the passenger did in the other vehicle that passed away. And for the other one, I believe she did. I can't remember off the top of my head.
But I think you're correct. Any questions for Kathy?
And I have to leave the meeting. I have something else I have to take care of.
All right, Kathy, have a good day.
Thanks.
Then I am to District Attorney Isherwood.
On my mute button. I am just charging out an old crash. I've been working with Kevin and Pat Gorschel's. It was the head-on crash between a car and a motorcycle, and the two people on the motorcycle were severely injured. And we just got back the blood test results, and the kid driving the car had THC in his system. So other than that one, they haven't been chargeable cases. I know we had was it just last week, another head-on crash? Luckily, there were no fatalities in that. That was on 10. So Kevin and I had been working on a campaign for Stay Right at Night, and something to bring to the attention these head-on or wrong way drivers, I should say. And then COVID hit and it all kind of fell by the wayside. But with this crash last week, I think we maybe should look at that and try to at least do some kind of campaign to warn people. Those crashes are just sickening, and And what I know about the one from last week, she traveled for miles and miles in broad daylight with people dodging out of her way, and she never made any evasive action, or, I mean, she had to have known she was in the wrong lane. So I'm still waiting for reports to come on that one to see if there'll be any criminal charges. And then the only thing I had for Becky is I took my granddaughter driving for her very first time 2 weeks ago. And so any tips you have, it was frightening.
Where does she live?
Sun Prairie.
Oh, yeah. I have your email.
Like-
I'll give you some tips.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I have a question. The motorcycle accident you're talking about with the THC, was that the one in Fremont last fall? Where it was
Yes.
2 people? Okay.
Yep. No helmets.
They didn't have their helmets on?
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right. And the person had THC in their system. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And so what was interesting, what Pat Gorshals did for me is he was at a level 5 nanograms per milliliter of his blood. And so he got me an article from Colorado, and that's the level where, even though THC is legal out there at 5 nanograms of the Delta 9, that level is illegal to drive even in Colorado where marijuana is legal. So I really appreciated him doing that research for me, because it's much more compelling than he had it in his blood, that we have some documentation that level is impaired, as well as just a detectable amount of a restricted controlled substance.
Yeah. You don't hear much about accidents in THC.
No, but I think with crashes, they're looking for the smell of alcohol. And I think we can do more of doing some inquiries. I see possession cases that come and they find marijuana in the car, and yet nobody looked at the driver for driving impaired. So I get a referral for a possession, but not for driving with the substance. So it can impair them. And the marijuana they're smoking these days is much stronger than what my friends were smoking in high school. And that's all I'll say.
I'm sure everything changes.
Yep.
Not your grandpa's marijuana anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Ronnie. Any other questions for the district attorney? If not, we will go to Mr. Chemnitz.
All right. Touch base on the projects I spoke about last time. A lot of them are more slated towards the end of the construction season. I know last year you guys had a lot of work in the county. We did advance one of our projects that was going to be let next year into this year, and it's a pretty big one. However, the first thing I want to talk about is the Highway 96 request to change the speed limit. Our communications manager, and I know Casey was contacted by a Miss Lisa Buss who lives over in Fremont by the signal, where the old cheese shop used to be there on 96 and 110 and double I there, just north of 10. Her concern, she has the first driveway on the north side of the road as you head out east of that stoplight on 96, is why is that not 45 miles an hour out to that new Whitetail Drive? That's the access road into that new subdivision out in the countryside there. I did do some research. I talked to the signal engineer, looked at, there's actually a reduced speed zone ahead sign out there for 45, about a half a mile away from the intersection. So as you're heading west into Fremont on 96, it says reduced speed, but then there's no 45 mile an hour speed limit sign. Well, I can't find anything in the speed zone database, and I can't find any signing records either. So I think there was one, and it's a drop on our end. So I'm going to have to go out and collect speed data and send a request into Madison and actually make it 45, because I believe that's what it should be because the light's designed for that. So I'm in process with that. We did a speed check out there between Whitetail Drive and the stoplight. Speeds they range basically between 45 and 54 miles an hour. And then the 85th percentile speed was 53. So yeah, 45 makes sense in a couple of ways from the design of the way the light is set up. So it turns yellow to give you enough time to clear at 45 or 50. So we want to get that corrected. So she just kind of pointed out a missing sign on our end. So I'm working on that. That should be cleared up hopefully this summer. We'll get a sign out there. As far as the 2021 construction projects, right now, the only project I'm aware of that's underway is the Main Street project in Waupaca. I talked to Eric, our project manager, yesterday. That started on March 9th. They are working on the north half of the roadway now. So that's going to proceed through about July 4th. This project completely reconstructs about a third of the mile of the road. It's going to have new utilities, streetlights, sewer and water. It's kind of the full Monty as far as a road construction project. So that's got about a $3 million price tag on it. And it should be wrapped up here by the end of the year. There will be no work on it during holidays. We'll have that opened up as best we can for the businesses downtown. There's also a bridge deck overlay project on 4 different bridges, Highway 22 and 54 over the Waupaca River, the Royalton Railroad overpass on 54 as you head out of Waupaca towards New London, the bridge on 110 coming into Fremont by the interchange of 10 and 49. And then there's another deck overlay project on 110 on the east end of Lake Waupaca as well. Those are going to be quick hitter projects. They'll have temporary bridge signals out there. They do one side at a time, put the epoxy on, sprinkle the stone aggregate on top. It has to be done when it's about 70 degrees and sunny. So it is weather dependent, but we'll deal with that. They'll be quick hitters. Like I said, you may notice it for a day or two of your commute on those bridges would be about it. The project that got advanced is the 12-mile resurfacing project, and that's on Highway 22. That runs from, I think I have it on here, starts at N near Manawa, and as in Nancy, and it continues out to Bear Creek at Highway 45. That'll resurface Highway 22. It's a typical mill and resurface job. We've seen several of those last year and the years before. Grinding off 2 inches of asphalt, putting a new 2-inch mat, reshouldering it, repainting the lines on the road, and there will be centerline rumble strips as well added for a safety feature on our 2-lane roads that has about a 44% crash reduction for sideswipe and head-ons. Statistically very effective at reducing crashes, so that is a standard now. And then that job should be going. It's going to be let in June, and it'll be start construction probably September, October, and wrap up by deer hunting. So that's what we have.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions for Tony?
I do. Tony, are they going to take the stop and go lights out of Main Street in Waupaca?
I do not have that detail. I do not believe so. But if I can ask and find out. And
No, it's okay. I thought they were just going to make it 4-way stops, and I just wanted to.
It's very possible. I'm curious myself, so I'll just look it up and I'll send you an email.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Tony?
On that 45 speed limit sign missing down by Fremont, can't we just put one in? It says, I know there's a 45 speed limit sign ahead. Can't we just put the 45 speed limit sign up right away, Tony, or do you want to wait until summer?
No, I got to do a study because there's nothing in the database. So I'm going to get one in there, but I still got to go through the hoops with Madison and have them say, okay. So that's what's going on. It's on us.
Anything else? Anyone else? Thank you, Tony. And I'll go to Mr. McClone.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
You. County Board Chair Dick Kevin.
Well, as many of you know, I'm really anxious to get back to our Waupaca County boardroom. I've been out of there now since last summer, something like that, Pat. Get back where we belong and get on with life past this COVID. I'm very anxious. I feel a little different, a lot of people, about this, but we got to get over this panic and move on with life. And I hope to do that soon here. However, we will take advice from our public health officer, Jeb Wolf, who's done a marvelous job through this stuff, and his staff. marvelous job. They were easy to work with, and they are under heavy pressure of a lot of hours, weekends, and you name it. In fact, we almost needed to tell them to take some days off, because you just can't work with that stress and the calls that he got. And he knows how to handle me. So anyhow, that being said, I do have a question though for Kendi. The state patrol, do some of you have dogs with you or not?
I believe there's somewhere between 8 and 10 of them throughout the state. We have canines, yes.
Someone asked me that the other day. I didn't know. I was gonna ask you too, someone told me recently, was adamant this is gonna happen, that there's gonna be a roundabout at Bear Creek Corners.
Tony?
Is that true, Tony? A roundabout at Bear Creek Corners, Highway 22 and 45?
I don't think it qualified, if my memory serves me right. I know we did look at that. I think we hired a consultant to actually do a safety study there and look at all different kinds of traffic control, but the cost did not bear out. But I can verify that for you, but I do not believe so. I think we were just shifting the islands back. That was about all we were doing.
Okay, could I find out somehow from you?
Absolutely, I will follow up on that.
I don't want my retired friends who's so wild about roundabouts. They blocked me out of Appleton. Now I can't go down there without roundabouts. Now I'm gonna be right here in Clinton the rest of my life. I don't know if that's true. And another thing too, just mentioning motorcycles, I'm gonna ask you too, Candy, contribute. Since this beautiful weather we've had, the motorcycles go out, and crowd all over. And I have hardly yet seen many with helmets on. If they're without helmets, nice. Is that true?
And what I'm seeing too, but on here, so.
Yeah.
Not much to do,
Yeah.
until it changes.
I know we were talking about that before. So anyhow, thank you. That's all I have.
Any questions for Chairman Kevin?
Easy.
If not, we're gonna move to DOT Rico. You got the- I tried a couple times to do it live on community maps and it doesn't work. What did you want? The thumb drive I sent you with the. Yeah, I got it. The PowerPoint. I remember. Here we go. Okay. Just to review, as you did before with the numbers and kind of showing the locations. If these numbers are a little bit different than his, it just depends on the day I run it. Because if a crash happened, let's say in March, but the crash report wasn't transmitted until tomorrow, it won't show up on there. So this is just based on two. The next one. Statewide numbers as of yesterday, 92 fatalities statewide compared to 95 same time last year. Trending in the right direction, even though the number should be 0. But for last year, about this time, we were just the opposite. The numbers for 2020 were going up dramatically. And the tentative numbers for all of last year was 593 fatalities. That also could change a number or two here and there, depending on medical examiner reports being brought in as suicide or, and reports taking a while to get updated. So right now, that number stayed steady for a little while, but that could change. Next one, please. County fatalities as reported earlier, 2 locations. Next one. Now what I did is just took a look at those locations and in the last 5 years, how many crashes have there been? As you can see, the one on E, there were a total of 5 crashes in that relative area over the past 5 years. Didn't really see anything specific among all of those. Not all run off the road, they're not all. Next one. And the same thing here on Highway 45. The only thing I did notice is that 4 of the crashes happened in February. So probably the winter stuff we were talking about. They looked like 4 of those. Because on February 6th of this year, there was one. And then, so there were 2 crashes on that same day in that area. I don't know a lot about the first one, other than it was a property damage only crash, which could have been simply run off in the day. So, next one, please. Just an update a little bit. The old MV 4000 crash report in the alcohol section for the driver, it used to say alcohol present or drugs present. So if at the time of the crash, you drew blood, but you didn't have any knowledge, maybe of the if you put down no, and then the results come back later, and it shows in fact there was alcohol or drugs, you could simply change that from no to yes. Now it says suspected alcohol use and suspected drug use. So at the time of the crash, they're asking the officer or deputy to make a determination. Suspected or not. The issue that comes up is on the one on the bottom says suspected no and no, but yet they did a blood test. Some of these are maybe on the deceased driver. If the blood test comes back now and you enter in an alcohol test result of 0.20, either for THC, that doesn't change the field above. And the field above, the suspected alcohol or suspected drug is what flags the alcohol or drug flag on the crash. So we are working on trying to figure out if there's just a way to take the results, throw it in that. And there's some hope that they can actually have the hygiene lab. When you send in that form with the alcohol or the blood, that can be correlated to a crash report. So some thought there once. Since that's all computerized now, can they now take that automatically up to the crash report? Which would automatically update your accounts. So if you do see a crash where that happens, doesn't show up as alcohol or drug related, that's why. Yeah, because you can't really go back after the fact and say, well, I didn't suspect it at the time, but now I do. Versus, yeah, I didn't know it was present back then, now it is, and now I know it is, form you can change this one. Not that you can't change it, I just don't know how far. That would really match up. So, next one. So their ticket coming up May 24th. And then drive sober in August and December. I believe Mike will be getting information on that. Law enforcement action tip. So that's cool. It's not a grant. This is the mobilization. That stuff usually goes out the first part of May. I asked for everyone to be part of that, and we're going to talk a little more further into that in a minute. Next one, Governor's Conference, August 17th to the 19th, will be virtual. My understanding is that the sessions will be in the morning, and then any work groups will be in the afternoon. But more information should be coming out about that. Even though a lot of things are opening up by August, they had to make this decision back in January. So how do you make that decision in January? Put all the money into Chula Vista, I think is where we're going to be at. And then know for sure what's going to happen in August. But I think it'll be still a good session, and I think nice thing about that is you can actually sit in your office and watch it and listen to it, participate versus having to drive to the place. Like you said earlier, I don't think Zoom is going to go away. Probably some type of Zoom ability. Next one, please. Predictive analytics. We've talked about this before about using community maps to predict where the crashes are going to be based on past history. And one of the things that the State Patrol has done statewide is each region will look at the top 3 hotspots for crashes. And the one I know the most about is one in Podline. Johnson Street by the mall is a hotspot. So the last quarter, the State Patrol came in and blanketed that area and did deployments in it. They didn't involve the local police department. They just came in and did enforcement when they had enough personnel to do that. And that was sort of a test or a study to see if we can do that is there an effective? Does something else happen? Well, now we're to the point where we want to go to the next step into that, so the next. But just a little review here, the Traffic Safety Commission is required by statute. And there's a lot of committees that are required by statute, and some counties, when I first started doing this, it was, the sheriff, the highway commissioner, the DOT engineer, and myself sitting around the desk, and that was it. And they could check the box and say, yep, we follow the statute, says there's a meeting. Majority of counties have done much better than that, and a lot of that is from encouragement from the state and from the locals to make this a little more worthwhile. And the biggest thing is it's an opportunity for the locals to start an effort to change the behavior in the county, and to address the issues of the county. It's also the Strategic Highway Safety Plan meeting was 2 weeks ago, and it was really interesting to see how many people called in on that literally for the entire week. Every morning for 5 days, talking about what should be in the plan. One of the things that came up was motorcycles and the helmet use. And even though it's not a statute, is there something we can do about that to get the word out? And the bottom line is that DOT and Box are committed to providing whatever resources we can to make a PSC more effective. Next one. We talk a lot about the fatal crashes and the serious injury crashes. And as you can see around the table, we have all the stakeholders here, either here at the table or there. And the big part of that is their individual expertise. The crash on Highway 45 is a perfect example. Law enforcement could sit out there all day long. But one of the fixes or one of the things that they help is the snow fence. And then maybe also getting out there, because now you've got to talk to the landowner, get them involved. You can't just put a snow fence out there.
Yeah,
I mean,
the state statute allows us just to do it wherever we feel necessary, but we get a lot of pushback a lot of times,
yeah, and so you've got to work with the locals to get that done and explain to them why you're doing that. And a lot of that is what we pretty much are doing at this table. Next one. It's all about the collaboration. It's all about everybody working together. We don't have enough cops out there to be at every street corner. And we don't have enough plows to be on every road every 5 minutes to keep it clear. So educating the public is the big thing, and we need to change the culture. If some of you saw the information on Tiger Woods' crash, where he was going 40 miles an hour over the speed limit, and says it's because he hit the gas versus the brake. Form your own opinion on that. But the biggest thing I'm hearing from people, and when you follow on Facebook and stuff, they're not giving him a ticket. He's not getting cited. And people are like, we need to change this culture that fast is okay. Not just there, but everywhere. And some of the culture is, I came here from Appleton, and when I get on Highway 10, I set my cruise to 65, and I just go, because I'm not in any hurry. I was here at 9:30. I'm here a half hour early for every meeting. And I got passed by literally everyone. Now, some of them were 3-4 miles an hour, but some were 15-20 miles an hour over the limit. Are you really going to get there that much faster? And we need to get the word out there that it's not safe. One of the things that I think Becky brought up about teens being involved in crashes. Of the 85 fatal crashes so far this year, 10 of them involved a teen driver. Doesn't mean the teen was killed, it just means they were one of the drivers. But 65 plus drivers, 23 of 85. So the teen drivers aren't necessarily down, it's what, 12%. That's a lot of teens. So overall, we need to work together and not just make this check the box we met what we did. Next one.
Okay.
10 of 85. This year's or last year. 10 of 85.
And the 65 was what?
23 of 85. So ultimately, It's up to the traffic safety commission in your county to decide what you want to do. Some counties think it's acceptable to have 2 fatalities a year. Some think it's, the cost of doing business. Problem is that if you have 10 fatalities in a county, even in a fairly large county, what if those 10 people were here today? And a month from now, they're not here. That makes a difference. 10 is just a number. And as one of my fellow LEL said, what is your acceptable number in your hometown of the number of people who can be killed in a crash? If it's 2, I want to know who those 2 you selected, because they're not going to be my family. That's kind of the attitude we need to develop is 0 might be difficult, but if every county worked towards 0 and went from say 10 to 8 to 6 to 4, that's a huge difference. That's a dinner table at Christmas. So kind of need to get a little bit more involved, and the reason why Waupaca County is one of 12 counties statewide that we're looking at is because of your traffic safety commission. Not because your crash numbers are high or you're a hotspot, but your traffic safety commission is one of the more involved commissions and have the right stakeholders to table. So the next one, and that's kind of what we talked about is, achieve 0 preventable deaths. There may be some that with the snow might be, but again, slow down. Get the message out, slow down. How many times have you been in the ditch during a snowstorm? In my 35 years in law enforcement, I got stuck once. Because I had to go from here to there, and there was too much snow on the ground, they couldn't do it. I get stuck in the ditch. I got stuck on the road. But otherwise, personally, I've never gotten my vehicle stuck in a snow. I left here when we had the ice a year ago, where everything turned to ice right as we pulled out here. It took me a long time to get home, but I made it home. Next one. What's the purpose of the data that we have out there? We put everything together. And what you have to remember about that is all those red dots are not just numbers. Those are people. If you put their faces on there, that'd be a little bit more of an impact. But those are people, not numbers. And everything that we have in that system comes from the law enforcement crash reports. I think it was about a year ago, we talked about distracted driving, the changes to the crash report, trying to get law enforcement to maybe ask that secondary or third question about, did you look and not see? Or did you look and see and think you could make it? Because there's a difference. And look, but didn't see, now is there something environmental? So things like that enhance the reporting system. And what we need to remember is if it's predictable, it's preventable. If we can predict where crashes are going to happen, you can work to prevent them. Things that have been done are clear cutting, where a lot of counties, I don't remember how many years ago they started doing that, they literally clear the right of way of all the trees and stuff. When I was a kid, the trees could be right next to the road. But everything is getting pushed back, they're clear cutting. Now, we may not be able to avoid the person going off the road, but when they go off the road, they're not going to hit a tree that's right in the ditch. Little things like that. So we're trying to take a little different view on the predictive analytics. Next one. So I just took a look at the top 5 crash areas based on 3 years of data. These are the top 5 crash areas. Just as a snapshot, based on what happened the past 3 years. Not a big surprise where some of those are, especially with the traffic volume. But now if we take a look at the next one, so we narrow it down, the seatbelt, look what we have here. So if you want to do seatbelt enforcement, this is the place to go. Because all 3 of those areas have a high crash rate where somebody's not wearing a seatbelt. So if we were to say, that's our task for this month. And somebody says, yep, I'm gonna go sit on Highway 10, well, you're not gonna get anybody who wants to sit on a ramp. Can't physically see it. But these three areas, Clintonville, New London, and Waupaca. It's fairly easy to sit on a street corner and watch cars go by and see somebody without a seatbelt. And then not only do that, but get the message out, tell people why you're there. Next one. This is alcohol and drug. And Waupaca, and then the area that just outside of New London. Yeah. The two higher areas for alcohol and drug. Again, if you want to do drug enforcement, alcohol enforcement, those are the two areas that show based on the data. Next one. So what we want everybody to understand is it's not just a law enforcement problem. So the example of the seatbelts, you're going to sit downtown Waupaca and you're going to wear seatbelts. But nobody knows why you're sitting there except the two people you stop. So if we were to maybe have a message board that said, click it or take it, seatbelt use, or some of those. Look at some of the overhead things on the highway, the verbiage they're coming up with, it's kind of fun, because people get it. You just said, slow down. People go, okay, whatever. Or put your seatbelt on. But since they've opened it up and they've changed the way they're doing it, people remember that. And you'll see Facebook snapshots of it. People are like, look at this. It gets the word out. And now if we start to involve, the highway crews, both in the city and in the county on these projects. We involve the schools, we involve EMS, involve the fire department. Get the word out so they know that cop's not sitting there, that state trooper's not sitting in the middle of a packet. For speeding. They're there for seatbelt enforcement. Because this is a targeted area for seatbelt enforcement. Tell the guy running a local diner. One actually had paper, the maps they put down, made up with certain messages on what the project was for that month. So trying to get everyone together and get everyone to do this. Kind of the idea of where we need to go with this, because otherwise we're not really doing anything except talking about the crashes. So maybe we're making some environmental changes, some speed changes, but we're not getting the people to change their behavior. Next one. So what is predictive analytics 2.0 involving the local law enforcement agents? I said Waupaca is one of 12 in the state that we selected. Each one of the 4 LELs had to pick 3 counties. And when I looked at mine, I said, you guys have a good PSC, you have the right people able. You have a sheriff who's involved, you have law enforcement who's involved throughout the county. So where do we go from here? And simple things like taking a look at what do you have for equipment that can be used. You have a speed board that can be put out if we're going to do speed enforcement in the area. You have 2 of them, or if you don't, is there someplace else we can get some? So we're looking at the possibility of the state buying some to use with these projects. And I believe, Tony, I think you guys have speed boards that you take out to different projects.
We have 2, I believe, one in the south office and one in the north. The one in the north is borrowed out to the northern counties on a rotation. The one in the south is used on our construction jobs.
Okay, and that's what we're looking at, is going to use some of that, the money that we used to give out for the mobilizations at $4,000, we can't use it for that anymore. But can we use it for something that's specific to a project? And we talked about with the pedestrian, what do you call it? For the crosswalk. The warning signs. sign.
Oh,
So is that something we could use up, was it by Sugar Bush? Or that? Spencer Lake. Yep. Is that something we could do? Because they don't have any for that. Is there a message board that maybe could be incorporated into this, and we can use that money towards a specific project? And what they want you to be able to do is say, here's what we see beforehand, here's what we did, here's what was purchased or used, and here's the outcome. Not an overtime thing, but it would be a coordinated effort among everyone involved to try and change the culture. We're all busy. But how much time does it take you to investigate even a property damage crash? Now, yeah, maybe it's only an hour for the deputy at the scene, but nothing gets in the report. Then the clerical staff has to do something with it. And there's a lot more to it. Now, if you start talking about fatality, what are you talking about? The charge of fatalities, hundreds of hours? Dozens for sure, depending on how it is. Right. It's chargeable and how you need to recon it on the court and all that. And you're at 100, and you're at 100 hours easily. Versus saying, well, instead of that deputy being sitting in the office doing all this, fatalities down, that 100 hours spent on the road. So you'll hear more about that in the coming months. We're working with Sergeant Dean Hay. He's going to be the contact for the state patrol. He's totally bought into this. But we're starting to get this going, and we'll probably have some meetings set up in the next couple months to talk about what do you guys need, where do you see the issues, and what can we do to maybe make a difference here. Sure. Next one. Legislative update. Okay, sorry about that. That's the wrong slide. We are in session. The updates are on the website. Just a couple, I'll go through those that are introduced and going through the process is the marijuana possession. No-knock search warrants. And then there's a provision in there, and I don't know if a lot of law enforcement are aware of this, but you'll only be able to execute any search warrant from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Unless you show cause to a judge, which you can do it at night. The question comes up, what if the eye blood draws are a search warrant? But we're not sure, we haven't heard from them how that's going to play out. There's also a proposal coming out of Milwaukee to eliminate public official immunity. Not just law enforcement, but any public official. So your county board members, any public official. Where they take away the qualified immunity, meaning, I guess in layman's terms, it means if the officer or deputy does their job the way they were trained and within policy, if they get sued, they're immune from personal liability. And it would start at the county level or their agency level. Illinois just eliminated that. Saying you can box an officer leaving. Because that means if I make a traffic stop and it's found that for whatever reason it's not a legal stop, they can come back and sue. Correct. So then there's a couple things on weight limits involving maple syrup. Changing the weight limits for maple syrup hauling. There's a proposal to change the definition of a UTV from all the way from 2,000 to 3,000 pounds, so making the bigger units still considered. 15-year-old construction permits, meaning at 15 they'd be able to get an construction permit, not 15 and a half. It still means they got to wait till they're 16 to get a license, but it gives them 1 year with a learner's permit. From what I've heard, a lot of people are in favor of that, because it does give them a lot more time to go through the driver's ed and spend more time practicing. There's some changes to law enforcement standard for use of force policies, which has been out there for a while now. Things on tracking sexual assault kits and maintaining them for up to 50 years. That has passed either one chamber or both. Another one that has passed through the committees is the search warrant, the telephonic search warrants. Currently, those are simply transcribed. And that the transcribed thing is signed and put into the file. Now they're saying the audio also has to be included. You have to save that along with it. It hasn't passed or been signed yet, but it's gone through the committees already. And then the latest one signed by the governor is the cocktails to go. A It's really not a whole lot different than any other growler that's been out there for years. You go to a bar, buy a growler, they put the cap on, they seal it with plastic, and you can take it home. Now they can do the same thing with old fashions or margaritas or whatever. As long as they seal the container so you can't open it, or if you open it, it's evident. And then we had talked about this, I think 2 years ago, the ATV, UTV, snowmobile, motorcycle, intoxicated operation. Where right now you can get an OWI on a snowmobile, one on a boat, another one in the ATV, and a 3 separate OWI. Part of this bill would apply all of them as one, meaning you want in your snowmobile, then you get a UTV, that's a number 2. So they're countable. That's what they want to try and do with that, yes. And then changing some of the increased penalties, trying to make it more towards the standard vehicular OWI. So the penalties and stuff will kind of track with that versus, because right now with the UTV, it's the alcohol concentration of 0.7 or more is a higher fine versus anything under that, which doesn't conform at all to suspending driver's license for ATV, mobile, et cetera, boat OWI. So basically, you got an OWI on your motorhome, mobile, you can lose your driver's license. Not required to have a driver's license to operate those, but that OWI could come back and affect your driving. And those are all available to you online. So that is all I have, unless there's some questions. Any questions for Rick?
You know, I have one. I couldn't hear him very well, but what was the instruction permit at 15?
They're proposing that you get an instruction permit at 15, not 15 and a half. So
Okay,
they would have 1 year, which I personally don't think that's a bad thing. I think it gives drivers and instructors a lot more time.
Yep.
And gives them a lot more time, a lot more experience driving.
so it went through the legislature?
It's going through the legislature right now.
Okay.
It has not passed, but it's been proposed.
Okay.
I think there's been a hearing on it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. They could drive longer.
And drive in the winter.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And it wouldn't be required, it's just, because right now, everybody at 15.6 is at their door waiting to get their construction permit. They are.
Okay.
15, it'll give them a lot more time.
And a year of all the seasons.
And the, mentioned earlier about the driver test, there's some indication that may not change.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing, that it's going to be waived. I think they've been trying to eliminate it since 2011, actually.
We're one of the few states that actually requires it.
Yeah. I'm hoping it doesn't change. I'm telling you, I like it. Chris, how you like it? Probably. I mean, 2 of the officers in here did the waiver with their kids. I like it.
What we've heard is that the drivers, the instructors can teach driving, not teach to the test.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
And they are somewhere in the background tracking those who took the test and those who did not.
Mm-hmm.
Violations and crashes. But that'll take a while to put together.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen really good kids fail a test 3 times and really poor drivers pass the first time. And now it's up to me. You know, you can't drive, you're not getting your license till you improve. I like it.
Any other questions for Rick?
I have a general question, I
Yes.
guess that's for Rick, but more and more your medical professionals are not prescribing it, not prescribe, but they're suggesting CBD oil. Taking CBD oil for certain issues. Where does CBD oil fit in on this as far as driving? And
don't think it's really gonna affect anything. So,
Homes don't have,
yeah, it's pretty much non-detectable.
doesn't have the active.
So, fine. You can buy that stuff everywhere now.
Yeah, but I understand if my medical professional tells me that I start using it, I can only get it at one place because he said all this stuff differs so much, made by so many different manufacturers. And he wanted me just to take the one certain one that's pure, so to speak, not full of a lot of other junk, so. Yeah. Especially that's on the internet.
Yeah, don't order anything off the internet.
No.
Any other questions for Rick? Not, we will go down state patrol. Candy, anything?
Only thing I have is that contractual transfers opened up with state patrol. They just got through the last round of that and Waupaca did not come on the list. So our one vacancy here for another trooper is not being filled. So that's seen as a priority right now. So that's about it.
How many do we have in Waupaca County?
2 right now.
Questions for Candy?
I think you have to do a lot of things. That's worked in the past. So, very tough choice.
I got a phone call. Right, so I go back to county.
We had that for 2.5 years now. So. Not sure, we have a class going through right now. Started with 50, is down to 45 right now. And what we were told to do is that we're gonna take those people and then take it first, so that priority. See where the rest go.
Andy, do you see a, through these days and times, a decrease in applicants?
Definitely. Qualified applicants.
We're seeing it. That's everywhere. You rattled off part of it. Why?
Hi, Mom.
A lot more disrespect on traffic stops.
I don't know how you can do it sometimes.
It's been a rough year.
Anything else for Candy? If not, we will move to Patrick. Nothing to report. Right. We have a couple of police department representatives here. Clintonville, Chief Freitag, anything?
I have nothing.
All right, thank you. The London PD, Chris Gregory, anything?
Nothing other than I would second what Becky was having to say about extending that 15-year-old driving. I think that's a good idea. They should be doing that.
I agree with that also. Casey?
In London, have you had any compliments or complaints about the speed reduction that we took place on X?
No, really no comment. I thought there would be more, but no, have not heard much at all about that.
I got an answer for Dick on the roundabout if you want to hear it. There will not be a roundabout that's currently proposed with any of the projects we have at 45, 22 and 76 in Bear Creek. Like I said, I did verify we're just adjusting the islands on either side of 45. There's not a roundabout proposed there. So your buddy can still get through there without a roundabout.
You'll be happy. Thank you. Thank you much.
Anybody have anything on the update? I know you mentioned potential law change. I don't know what number of vehicle UTVs, because I'm seeing them out more and more, especially around the King area and Waupaca, all over, but that's where I pay attention. I don't know what ones are over 2,000 pounds to 3,000 pounds, but there's some nice size ones out there. If they're getting up to 3,000 pounds, you're getting that.
Is there another, done that, or is that more of a-
That was a personal interest. And so he did the legwork to try to get most of these towns. Pass some type of work, but not just- We have nobody else yet. These two will start. He runs we have a sheriff's office.
Continue to promote it? I don't know either. And did I not see that he's Fremont mayor? I think he's president of Fremont now. Yes. Yep.
He's around.
So yes, he'll work towards 18 years, but I don't know in what capacity.
Think you can get, you said tonight for this?
Yeah.
You think you can get a email for that?
What do you?
An email address for him, so we can contact him?
I don't have. a clue.
No.
When he comes.
Yes.
ask him for his email.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything else besides a date for our next meeting?
I think it behooves all of us now, if the consensus is that we should actually call our local legislators, representative and the senators, to push this 15. To give them, you know, the 4 seasons.
Propose it, and
I think it's a good idea. I really, really do. I mean,
You said it's in the legislative right now.
but there's different categories, whether it's been proposed or it's been voted on by one. Both. No. You're good.
It is proposed, it's SB 15. AB 20. There was a public hearing on March 10th for the Senate bill, and Assembly bill was March 25th, so it should be moving to committee for vote soon, I would think. Get a hold of them and tell them you're in favor of SB 15 or AB 20. What that is.
How can we get that out to more local residents to let them, know? As a group here, how can we?
If you're on Facebook, you can throw it out there.
Put it on the county website? Is
I think the county has to be a little careful with that, just like the state.
Okay.
That's who makes the decision that the county's for it.
Yeah, we don't legislate, right? We provide information and, but, yeah, I don't
Personal
think,
Facebook page.
yeah, personal Facebook pages would be fine. Just Google Wisconsin SB, 2021 SB 15 or 2020. Google it and bring that up. And you can usually just from there share it. For any of that stuff.
SB, what was that? SB.
SB 15, 15, AB 20, 20.
Let's talk to them right
Or
How to do it.
Here in Chippewa Falls and Krasinski out of Mondovi. I don't know if you know either one of those.
Getting bipartisan.
It's had public hearings in both, so it's got to have some. A lot of stuff never makes it to public hearing.
And then who is the person about mentioning a state patrol short here, one in Waupaca County, who's the person that we?
I would say probably Superintendent Burrell, Tony Burrell,
You,
RR.
If you just ask them that.
I don't think anybody calls them
If there's nothing else, we show the next meeting date for Q2 in July 8th. That is during the car show. So we'll have to, Kevin and I will have to come from Iowa. Car show is going on, as the last we heard. We're trying to do some things to keep everybody safe, less touching of money and stuff like that, but looks like the car show is a goal for early July. With that, we will take in the motion for adjournment.
Second.
Got a second by Lee. There's no discussion. Take all in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. We're adjourned.
Thanks, bye.
Because it's personal.
Did I add your personal one to it?